Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Plant Kingdom. This is the sixth part of this chapter and we are going to study about angiosperm in this session. Angiosperms means flowering plants. So the flowering plants or the angiosperms are the most recently and highly evolved plants. What does this mean? Highly evolved plants? Highly evolved plants means they are having lots and lots of complex characteristics as we compare to the earlier plant. That is about if we compare it with the algae, if we compare it with the bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperm, these types of plant mean that flowering plants are having they are having lots and lots of complexity. So that is why they are called as highly evolved plants. Okay. They are the most abundant and the conspicuous plants with about 270,000 genera. So this is the number of the angiosperm till date we are having. And out of that, 220,000 are dicot plants and 50,000 are monocot plants. Okay, so this is about the number of genera till date we are having about the angiosperms. Flowering plants occur in all the environments on the earth. Okay, so they are cosmopolitan in their they are present everywhere. Okay, so in sea only two genera. Okay, they are present in sea also, but there are very less genera are present in the sea. So Zoostera and Thalassia are the two genera which are reported, or we can say that they are found in sea environment. Okay. Wolffia, this is the smallest angiosperm known. Wolffia is an again aquatic angiosperm and this is the smallest angiosperm. If we talk about the largest one, then eucalyptus plants, we all know about it. So this is the largest angiosperm till date we know about. So Wolffia is the smallest angiosperm and eucalyptus is the largest one. Angiosperm contain a large group of plants that can grow in diverse habitats. So they are present in all the types of habitats. So they are present in torrid zone, they are present in frigid zone, they are present in temperate zone even. Okay, so everywhere they can be found. Orchids live underground and are associated with the mycorrhizal association. So their roots are associated with the mycorrhiza, that is the fungal association, and they provide lots of minerals to the orchids. So orchids are present underground and we can see them when they flower. Okay, they flower very beautiful and they are present above the ground. But when they are not in a flowering season, they are not at the time of flowering, their stems are under the ground only, their roots are under the grounds only. Okay, and at that time mycorrhizal association supports them for the survival. Some plants are attached to the other plants, okay, and they are dependent on them for the space. This is also very important. They are called as epiphytic plants. So here it is an example of an epiphytic plant. The plant which are, so such plants are called as epiphyte, the plant which get attached to the other plant body, but they are not attached for getting some nutrients, or they are not in a parasite mood. So they just want to get attached to the plant for the space. Okay, they are popularly known as space host. An example is vanda. They provide us food, fodder, fuel, medicines, and several other commercially important products. So lots and lots of things we get from the angiosperms. They provide us food, they provide us fodder for our cattle, they even provide fuels. Okay, we also get lots and lots of medicines from the different angiosperm plants. And other products also we get from the different angiospermic plants. So angiosperm plants are very important to us. So here we are going to study about the reproductive organ of the angiosperms. So sporophylls are aggregated to form flowers. Now here a very important characteristic which makes this angiosperm different from other group of plants, that is they are having flower. That is why they are also called as flowering plants. So their sporophylls are aggregated to form flowers. This is the reason angiosperms are also called as flowering plants. Both microsporophylls and megasporophylls are specialized. They are not present as we have seen in the case of bryophytes or pteridophytes or gymnosperms. Okay, here they are having very special characteristics and very special structures. So microsporophylls is called as stamen in the case of angiosperm, and it is consist of filament and anther. So this is the one of the stamen. This is the stamen structure, and it has two parts: the stalk-like structure, which is called as filament, and anther, a lobe-like structure. Inside this anther, if we cut the anther, okay, transverse section, we can see some sac-like structure over here. They are the sac-like structure, and inside the sacs, pollen grains are present. Okay, so these pollen grains, when dehisces, when this anther get matures, it release out pollen grains. It release out pollen grains from here. So male gametophyte, this is the male gametophyte structure, and it is formed inside the anther, which is a part of the microsporophyll called as stamen. Now the megasporophylls or the carpel, this is again a specialized structure which is not found in the case of bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperms. Okay, they also have the megasporophyll but not as present in the case of angiosperms. So they are very specialized structure, consist of three parts. We can have three parts: stigma, style and ovary. So this is the stigma region, the top region, okay, stigma region, which receives the incoming pollen grain. Okay, pollen grain come and rest on this stigma. The stalk-like structure, which this is called as style. And at the base, this is the swollen structure, which is called as ovary. This is called as ovary. And inside the ovary, ovule is present. Inside the ovary, ovule is present. So this is a very unique characteristics of the angiosperm, presence of stamen and carpel. Presence of stamen and carpel. Stamen is a male reproductive structure and carpel is the female reproductive structure. Angiosperms are divided into two classes, that is the monocotyledons and dicotyledons. On the basis of the presence of cotyledons, if we see the structure of a seed in the case of angiosperm, so one group is having two cotyledons. One group is having two cotyledons like this. So this is two cotyledons. Two cotyledons. And there are some plants which have only one cotyledons. They are having only one cotyledons. Okay, so this is called as monocot, and this is called as dicot. Not only this difference, that is the presence of two cotyledons or one cotyledon, there are many differences between the two groups, that is the monocotyledons and dicotyledons. We will see in the next slides. But here we are studying that the angiosperms is divided into two classes, that is the monocotyledons and dicotyledons. So according to the name itself shows that mono means one, presence of one cotyledon, and dicotyledon means two, so two cotyledons. So on the basis of cotyledons, the angiosperms are divided into two classes, that is monocot and dicot. Okay, just I have told that there are many difference if we see about the dicot and the monocot. So here we can see pollen grains have three pores or the furrows. So here we can see this is the furrow-like structure. Furrow means gap. Okay, this is the furrow-like structure. This is present in the case of dicot. Such a pollen grain structure can be seen in the case of dicot. Pollen grains have one pore or furrow. You can see here only one pore is here. Okay, only one pore is here through which the pollen tube can emerge out. Okay, so next difference, seeds have two cotyledons. We have already discussed about this, that dicot plants have having two cotyledons and seeds have only one cotyledon in the case of monocot plants. Okay, flowers have 4 or 5 floral parts. So there are 4 or 5 floral parts, or we can say that floral whorls. So if we talk about, there are sepals, there are petals, there are stamens, and there are carpels. So sometimes 4 and sometimes 5 whorls can be seen. But here the flowers have 3 floral parts, only 3 parts. Okay, so in this case of monocot, the sepals and petals get fused together and only one layer, or we can say only one whorl is present. Okay, they are called as tepals, and they are having male reproductive whorl and then female reproductive whorl. So they are having the stamen structure, they are having the carpel structure. Okay, so only 3 whorls are there, 3 floral parts or 3 whorls are there. Leaves are also shows the difference in the case of dicot and monocot. You can see the leaves and you can tell that this plant is a monocot and this plant is a dicot. So how we can say that? Leaves are oval or the palmate and having net-like veins. Net-like veins means reticulate venation here. So this is a midrib. These are the different veins. And if you see in between the two veinlets, you can see a net-like structure. You can see like this net-like structure. Okay, so this net-like structure is called as reticulate venation. Reticulate venation. So this is a very unique characteristics of the dicot leaf. Now, if you see in case of monocot plant, so monocot plant is quite long. Okay, leaves are narrow, quite narrow, and they are also having a midrib. But the veins are present parallel. The veins are present parallel to the midrib, like this. Okay, so parallel veins are present in the case of, so you can see the leaves and you can tell that this is the monocot plant and this is the dicot plants. Okay, vascular bundles are arranged in a ring around the stem. So here you can see these are the vascular bundles and they are present in the ring-like structure. So this is a ring-like structure. This is from a ring-like structure. But in the case of monocot, they are spread all over. No such radial arrangement can be seen. They are spread in the stem. Vascular bundles are spread like this. Okay. Now, if we see the root system, so the dicot is having a tap root. So in the case of tap root, one main root is there and several root branches can be seen, that is called as secondary roots or the tertiary roots. And in the case of fibrous root, at the base of the stem, many branches of the roots came out. So there is no one main branch or one main root is there. Okay, so this is called as fibrous root system. Okay, so these are the difference between the dicot and monocot of the angiosperms. So anther, let us talk more about the reproductive structures to understand how this life cycle of the angiosperm dependent on these structures, how the life cycle of the angiosperm complete with the help of these reproductive structures. So anther is a specialized structure located at the tip of the stamen. So this is a part of anther is a part of stamen, and it is having one filament like stalk like structure and anther. If you see the anther, you can see different pollen sac. So this is one pollen sac, this is another pollen sac, this is one more pollen sac. So we can see 4 different pollen sac. Inside the pollen sac, there is a layer of the cell that undergo meiosis and give rise to 4 haploid structures. So these are called as microsporocyte. It divides, it forms 2 cell stage, it again divide and form 4 cell stage. So this meiosis division forms 4 microspores. So microspores, or we can say the pollen grains. So if we see this, okay, so this is the structure of one of the microspore. So microspore, at the time of germination, when this microspore falls on the stigma, it germinate and give rise to this pollen tube like structures. Okay, so each anther typically consists of 4 pollen sac or microsporangia. So these are called as microsporangia. This is also called as microsporangia. Okay, so inside each pollen sac, inside these microsporangia, diploid cells are present, which is called as microsporocytes. So here you can see microsporocyte. Okay, this microsporocyte undergo meiosis. So here you can see what happened after this meiosis division. Meiosis division is also called as reduction division. So here from one particular cell, that is the microsporocyte, when undergo meiosis, it gives rise to 4 haploid cells. 4 haploid cells, and these haploid cells are called as microspores. So each microspore resulting into total of 4 haploid cells that are called as microspores. Okay. Okay, now let us talk about the megasporocytes. So megasporocyte or the megaspore mother cell undergo meiosis. Okay, so this is the megasporocyte cell. This is diploid structure. It undergo meiosis and give rise to 4 haploid cells. And out of these 3 haploid cells, degenerate means they dies. These 3 dies, and only one will become the functional. Okay, so megaspore or the embryo sac is formed from this particular cell. Now it undergo mitosis. This is not a reduction division, it's only undergo mitosis. Its nucleus divide into 2. Again it undergo mitosis. So 4 nucleus is there. It again undergo mitosis and form 8 nucleus. Now out of this 8 nucleus, 3 are arranged at one pole and 3 are arranged at another pole, like this. And 2 are present in the center. So here we can see a mature embryo sac structure. This is the mature embryo sac. How many cells are there? So 3 cells at this particular pole, 3 cells at this particular pole, and 1 is the center cell. So total 7 cells are there. Total 7 cells are there. And how many nucleus? So 1, 2, 3 at one pole, 1, 2, 3 at another pole. So total 6 and 2 at the center. So 8 nucleus. 8 nucleus is there. So 7 cells and 8 nucleus structure is called as embryo sac. Okay. Chalo. Okay. So the cells are organized into 3 distinct region or the cell type. So let us understand the detailed structure of the embryo sac. So 3 antipodal cells are there. We can see here 3 antipodal cells located at the chalazal base of the embryo sac. So here are 3 antipodal cells at the chalazal end. And at the micropylar end, we can see 2 synergid cells. 2 synergid cells and 1 egg cell. So egg cell is present in between the synergid cell. And in the synergid cell, we can see filiform apparatus. Filiform apparatus. This is a very unique structure. We will discuss about the function of the filiform apparatus later. In the center, 2 polar nuclei is present. And this is the center cell. This is the center cell. So 2 synergid positioned near the micropylar end and that play a role in guiding pollen tube growth. So when the pollen tube comes, okay, all the content is received here and it guides this pollen tube to come toward the synergid. Okay, egg cell. It is present between the synergid. So here is the egg cell. It is present in between the synergid that contain the female gamete egg and play the crucial role in fertilization. 2 polar nuclei at the center. We are having 2 polar nuclei and this is the central cell. This is the central cell. So this is about the mature embryo sac. Now, when a pollen grain lands on the stigma, so here is the stigma-like structure and this is the style. Okay, when pollen grain falls on the stigma, it germinates. It germinates. So it germinates and reaches to ovule. And inside the ovule, embryo sac is present. So this is the embryo sac. 3 cells at one pole, 3 cell at another pole and 2 in the center, 2 nuclei. So filiform apparatus helps to take all the content from the pollen grain, pollen tube and 2 male nuclei here. So this is the 2 male nuclei. Okay, so one sperm cell fuses with the egg cell. So, okay, one of this sperm cell makes its way to the egg cell and it fuses with it. This is called as syngamy. This is called as syngamy and it forms zygote structure. That is diploid. Zygote is diploid. So this union is called, or this is the fertilization process and this is called as syngamy. Okay. Now, the other sperm cell fuses with the 2 polar nuclei. So the second sperm cell or the male gamete makes its way toward the polar nuclei. And when it reaches to the polar nuclei, both the polar nuclei fuses together, and this particular male nuclei also get fused with it. So this is the triple fusion, you can say. This is called as triple fusion. Three nuclei fuses together. Okay, and the result in the formation of triploid cell, and this is the primary endosperm nucleus. This is called as primary endosperm nucleus. So here we can see two times the nucleus got fused, one egg cell and one male nuclei, that is called as syngamy, and two polar nuclei and one another male gamete fuses with it. This is called as triple fusion. So both unitedly called as double fertilization. So this is a very unique characteristics of the angiosperm. Okay, now the fertilized ovule ripen into seeds. When this ovule get fertilized, it form a seed. Seeds are covered with fruits, and fruit is typically a ripened ovary. That is nothing, it's a ripened ovary. Life cycle of an angiosperm. Now here we can see this is a sporophyte structure which is diploid in nature, and it's having two reproductive organ, that is the female reproductive organ and the male reproductive organ. Carpel, which is having stigma, style and ovary, three parts, and stamen, which is having anther and filament. Now we have already seen microsporangium and megasporangium, which is also called as ovule. So inside the microsporangium, microspores are formed, and inside the ovule, embryo sac is there. Okay, 7-celled and 8 nucleus structure, which is called as embryo sac. And at the micropilar end, we are having two synergids and one egg cell. This is one egg cell. So what happened? This pollen grain, when falls on the stigma, it germinate. Okay, and it's having two male nuclei, so it having double fertilization. We are not going to discuss it again over here. So there is a double fertilization, syngamy and triple fusion. Syngamy give rise to the diploid zygote structure, which later forms the embryo of the plant. And what is the fate of this triple fusion? Triple fusion forms the endosperm. Okay, when the plant is in the seed form, okay, all the nourishment it get provided by this endosperm only. The embryo get nourishment from the endosperm, and this endosperm is formed from the triple fusion. Okay, so this is the life cycle. Now here we can see the sporophyte generation. At some stages it is having the diploid stage, and at some it is having the gametophytic or the haploid stage. Okay. Okay, so here we have seen the alternation of generation. Even when we have studied about the algae, or we have studied about the bryophytes, pteridophytes or gymnosperm, in all the types of plant we have seen there is an alternation of generation. What is that? The different plant group complete their life cycle in the different pattern. Angiosperm complete their life cycle in two phases. That is one diploid sporophytic phase, that is 2N, and a haploid N gametophyte stage. Okay, the two follow each other rigidly, and this is called as alternation of generation, and this is fixed. Like after the formation of haploid spores, in the case of bryophytes and pteridophytes and gymnosperm, or in the case of angiosperm, that is the microspores, that is the haploid structure. So when there is a fertilization, it again forms the diploid structure, that is called as zygote, and this zygote give rise to embryo. So this is fixed. So that is why it is said that the two follow each other rigidly, and this is only called as alternation of generation. So here, the first type of alternation of generation or the first type of life cycle, that is the haplontic life cycle. Why it is called haplontic life cycle? So here we can see the major life cycle is having haplontic stage. Okay, the predominant phase in the haplontic life cycle is the haploid phase. So that is why it is called as haplontic type of life cycle. So haploid individual contain one set of chromosome, that is haploid, and are usually the one responsible for the growth, development and asexual reproduction. This is the main plant body and it is having haploid set of chromosome. So this plant only undergoes the growth, development and also take part in asexual reproduction. So at the time of sexual reproduction, haploid individuals undergo gametogenesis. They forms gamete-like structure, male gametes and female gametes. So they are forming two different types of gametes and by the process of gametogenesis. Their plant body is haploid and they are also forming haploid gametes only. So they produces a specialized haploid cell which is called as gametes, and this gametes undergo syngamy, that is fertilization, and form a diploid structure which is called as zygote. Now this zygote undergo meiosis, again forms the spore-like structure that is haploid in nature, and it forms again the gametophyte plant body. So here you can see the only stage here we can see as a diploid is zygote stage. Okay, so gamete fuses to produce diploid zygote, and that is why it is called as haplontic, because the diploid stage is having only one stage as a zygote, and it is very short duration for it, and it is formed for very short duration. So the two different haploid gametes, often of the different mating type, fuses together and fertilize to form diploid zygote. Zygote undergo mitotic division, reduction division or meiosis to develop into a multicellular organism. Again, the male plant body is formed. The main plant body is formed, which is gametophyte. Following a period of growth and development, diploid organism undergoes meiosis. And meiosis produces haploid spores or cells which are then released into the environment. The haploid spores germinate to give rise to a new haploid individual. So there are many examples: Chlamydomonas, Volvox, Pyrogyra, Ulothrix, Oidogonium, Cara and Coleucid. These are the different members of chlorophyceae, that is a green algae. Okay, so let us move to the next life cycle, which is called as diplontic life cycle. In the diplontic life cycle, the diploid phase is the dominant phase, just opposite to the haplontic. The main stage, or you can see the main cycle, is diploid, and haploid stage is of very short duration. The haploid phase is usually limited to the production of specialized cells called gametes. Here the main plant body is diploid, that is called as sporophyte. These gametes produced by meiosis. So when there is a process of gametogenesis, so by the reduction division or meiosis, they give rise to male gamete and female gamete. So there is a gametes stage. So haploid egg and the haploid sperm fuses and result the diploid. Again, there is a syngamy and diploid stage is again formed. So only the gamete stage is represented by the haploid stage. The zygote undergo the mitotic cell divisions and multicellular diploid organism is again formed. That is the sporophyte. The diploid zygote gives rise to the multicellular organism that grows and develops into an adult form. When the adult organism reaches at maturity, it can produce haploid gametes through meiosis process. And again, like this, the life cycle goes on. Now, there are some examples like cladophora, caulerpa, bryopsis, codium, fucus, and sarcos. So this is the second type, that is the diplontic type of life cycle. Now, the third and the last one is called as haplodiplontic type of life cycle. Equally, the sporophyte stage is there and gametophyte stage is there. The life cycle begins with the haploid phase, where the organism exists as a multicellular structure composed of a haploid cell. And in algae and other green plants, the haploid phase is called as the gametophyte stage. So here you can see the gametophyte stage. Okay, it is having a proper structure. So gametophyte is to produce gametes, haploid in nature. And haploid gamete fuses during the fertilization to form diploid zygote. Haploid gamete fuses during the fertilization to form the diploid zygote. Zygote undergo again cell division eventually to give rise to diploid phase. That is the sporophyte or the dominant phase of the life cycle. The sporophyte produces spore cell through the meiosis. So again, when they are at the mature stage, they undergo meiosis or the reduction division, and they again form the gametophyte stage, that is the gametes. The spores are released from the sporophyte and can be dispersed in the environment. So this is all about the angiosperm. Okay. Thank you very much.